Lesson 11. Sin Separateness. Truth is the eternal word. There is nothing new, for truth has had no beginning. As you unfold, you have clear vision in the wider spheres of action. You cannot see new truth. That is impossible. Whenever you enter into the plane of spirit, prepare yourself by prayer and the consecration of your whole being to God. This is the only safeguard against false teachers. When there is a threefold cord, it is not easily broken. Three souls in perfect unity can do great things for the cause of God and for all men. Let the Spirit within you be your only guide. It is for this reason only that we come, that you may know yourselves. Our words can only help as they enable you to do this. Our love for your world is very great. Do not lean on any outside help, however high, however good. You have already learned that it is impossible for the mind of man to affect spirit in any way. The work to be done in you is of far greater importance than learning from any teacher. Jesus could not do his works of healing while the mind was thinking. There must be silence when God speaks. The Christ within you is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Wait in silence and repose that Christ may speak, may write upon yourselves his thoughts, his purpose, his design. Let this mind be in you until not I, but the Christ of God is your only reality. You have known this for many years, but let the old words speak again until you feel the thrill, the newness of life, the upspringing of the eternal Son of God. That sin may be forgiven, there is needed a cleansing, a putting off of the old, so that the tender, new realization of Christ may not be impeded by the opposite of good. Sin and evil may not be confused as they often are. Sin is that great falsity connected with our outer self of the senses. It belongs to separateness and chaos. It would dare to set up its king and make its kingdom in our midst, but the Christ, now consciously real to us, as an inward fact, is greater than we know, and shall put all things under his feet. His very life in us is recreating, making new, or filling with himself, bringing the soul into unity with God. Thus, as of old, driving out his Father's temple, the thieves and robbers by his own right of possession. There goes out from us a cry of need, a great want, a reaching out to the author of our being. The infinite love is all sufficient, and from that heart of love comes the healing of forgiveness, such greatness of love that all is blotted out, since one dwells within who has conquered sin and death. Learn that sin forgiven is the end of that sin, but not the end of its result. The root is killed, and the river of life flows on. The suffering and results caused by sin can be turned into good. We on this side see something of the compensation of life. The ways of God are perfect, and the soul that is conscious of the living Christ, lifted into unity with the Father, becomes one with the work of redemption, lifting the whole race. Love is pressing through the very atmosphere around about us and you. Love requires readiness and obedience, and we are called to do its bidding. Are you willing to obey even unto the death of the cross? That cross is the place of your sacrifice for all men. All must go to Calvary, there to become one with the Father. Greater love hath no man than this. Love is the atmosphere when all that is the highest is nourished and fed. Love dwells in every human life, however degraded it may seem to you. Love much, and Christ shall do his work through you, for he loves your world, and will never cease until it becomes the kingdom of heaven. Lesson 12. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. Heaven is not a place to which you go. It is just where you are. You can enter heaven now. Good men and women from time to time have made this discovery, and henceforth all is well. They have ceased to hurry, for the journey is over. They are no longer pilgrims and strangers, but children in the Father's home. The first thing we understand when we awake is that there has not been any journey or passing over and through vast spaces. We are just where we have always been, at home, alive forevermore. There is no separation from anyone we love or from any good that is ours. To enter heaven is to become lifted into a larger consciousness of God, and in this consciousness we possess much more reality of all those whom we love. We are near to you, and we often talk together. There is no parting, but only greater unity. No belief in distance and space is possible on the spiritual plane. I can only remember it when I wish to understand your condition. In the clear light, we can no longer hold the false idea of limitation. All is yours, and all is yours. To become spiritually minded is life and peace. No suggestion of the carnal mind can ever produce good. Thank God for the secret stir of life on your earth, like the sap in the tree, sending forth life exultant in every part. A glorious liberty is opening up before you. The captives are being set free. Old bonds are bursting. Fetters of ancient creeds are being snapped asunder. Be not dismayed. The battle is God's. Do not hug your chains. Let go. Yield to the highest within you, and so become one with the great good, pouring forth healing and blessing through every waiting channel. The whole race is being lifted on to a higher plane. This work is going on in your very midst. We are all full of thanksgiving at the thought that you may now know the freedom of the children of God. Conscious union with God is your whole salvation, spirit, soul, and body. The knowledge of God's oneness with man, with yourself, is the open door to freedom. Jesus came to show you the way, for Christ is the way. I see you have not understood me about mind and thinking. This is a very wide subject. I can give you only the main points. The sense mentality, that delicate medium for spiritual truth, has shared in falsity, separateness, when it should have been the perfect channel for the one and only mind. Crammed by false thinking from the outer, it should have remained open to the divine inner and the only real, fed from the highest source, the real bread and true blood, which is Christ. It is the power to bring into subjection all sense perceptions, all false minds, alive in every part of the body. Every atom of your body should be under control, lest the hand, foot, or brain should gain supremacy, rule you, and bring about confusion. The sense of separateness in every sense is your great enemy. We beg you to let the mind of the Christ control. It is wisdom, it is love, and it is unity. Let this mind hold you, control you, sweeping through the outer body of flesh as its Lord and King, so that each breath shall rekindle and glow. Aye, even the very dry bones shall reunite and breathe. So shall you die to sin and the sense of separateness, but live unto Christ. You will read and understand in your hearts. Lesson 13. Christ in you. Do you ask for practical lessons on healing because you want immediate result? I will answer your question in order that you may attain to the highest. You can appeal on the material plane and seem to get help quickly. This is because you have been so long under the dominion of the senses. At first, when seeking health from the spiritual plane, you will seem to become worse. Always regard this as a hopeful sign. It means the last fight with falsity and shadow. With each attack of the enemy, remember that Christ is your life, until finally you die to live, putting off the old man and his dominion, to live anew and forever. For you have conquered the last enemy through the Lord Christ. God's work is never uncertain or hurried. It is sure, and it is steadily working out good. Therefore, mine own arm so brought salvation. Therefore, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding. And although you may seem to make but little headway, you are really growing, even in the darkness of night. The great Master Jesus unfolded this aspect in his parables dealing with the kingdom of heaven. The little brown seed sown in the earth is unaware of the sun until it comes through the darkness of matter. By its own inherent activity, unfolding to receive consciously that which has always been influencing its growth in the darkness, and yet I say that even the sun would have no power, were it not for the central attraction within the seed. Now we understand something of the meaning of evil and its friendly uses, that the dark earth is the medium for growth. And I can best liken it to the creation of God, which is called evil, always pressing into activity the bidden force within the seed covering. Without this friendly aid, and left to itself, the seed, though perfect, would be non-productive. The so-called evil has caused the seed to quicken, to bring forth by its very opposition. Look into nature, for therein is the symbol of every creative process on the spiritual plane. All that exists is first and forever in the real world of spirit, of which yours is but the shadow and semblance. When the fullness of time comes, your world will be no longer shadow but substance, for it will be the kingdom of the Christ, the new heavens and the new earth, one united home. There shall be no parting, for there shall be neither separation nor death, since the former things are passed away, and man and God are one. Lesson 14. Out of the darkness, light. The seed covering, as explained in our last lesson, contains the germ, the promise of the fullness of the Godhead, just as the outer man contains the seed form of the spiritual man, with all the possibilities of growth and expression. We would have you remember that while the inner and spiritual is always perfect, the outer covering is often out of harmony and has many imperfections, owing to long ages as you count time of ignorance and sense domination. You are to learn that spirit is the rightful ruler, the true owner and king. Man has tried to alter conditions on the material plane to seek help from without. This has hindered and often prevented the real work. Wherever spiritual forces have been brought to the material plane, the work is lasting, nay, eternal. An unconquered body is an unfinished life. All must be completed. He will be perfect, that which concerneth him. As you grow in understanding of the reality, your vision of Christ will be clear, and vision is the beginning of attainment. We must first see, then become our vision. Hold the highest ideal, even Christ, and you will wake in his likeness. You may ask at this point how we explain the perfect physique of the undeveloped races. The difference is that you have evolved, and although through ignorance you have not developed perfectly all around, yet is it a far higher thing that you have come to a knowledge of your spiritual being, even at a loss to the material. The undeveloped man will awaken later, and he too must learn that I am. The will to be becomes a force to be reckoned with. He will suffer, for knowledge is born of suffering, until he comes to the consciousness of God. As you have struggled with the less real, so will he, and you will watch and pray with us, till all the kingdoms of the earth are as the kingdom of heaven, for all souls are the inheritance of God. So much of your suffering is unnecessary and caused by opposing the will of God, but there is a quality of suffering that affects the highest good. That suffering which brings into activity the three great principles of spiritual growth: faith, hope, and love. The highest good is known by its opposite, and every experience can be used for ultimate good. Learn that the beauty of the morning is known because of the darkness of the night. Sorrow is ever making channels for joy. Lesson 15. Jesus Christ, the race man. The heart is the place of understanding, or as we would rather say, the doorway of divine wisdom. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The heart, and not the mind, knoweth the deep things of God. Our lesson can only be understood in your own heart. The true revelation must unfold from the divine heart of love, beating in unison with your own, so near as God. There are many theories, many explanations given about the cross of Jesus. Trust the inward and spiritual guide in all these matters, and not the mind of man. We know that the sacrifice on the cross has for your world the deepest meaning. In that sublime act, Jesus the Christ symbolized God's highest thought for you. You cannot now comprehend the greatness of it. Bonds were burst, and your earth was given its freedom. How much we have misunderstood its meaning. Let us keep reverent hearts and hushed voices before a mystery of such high import. It has a wide meaning, and only divine wisdom can interpret its greatness and its love. From our side, we see something more of its results. The principalities and powers can no longer harm you against your own will. Jesus descended into the lowest hell, that he might set free the captives and cast off all that makes for separation between God and man. The cross was the lifting up of humanity into divinity. Every incident and connection therewith symbolizes some great inner truth. In that mysterious outflow of water from the side, your earth received its chrism, its holy anointing, its Christhood. We worship in lowly adoration when we remember the greatness of that work. We have much to learn about this, and you can never know the full meaning of sacrifice until you too enter into sinless and selfless Christhood. Jesus Christ is your highest conception of God. He chose to stand for your world from the beginning as the eternal Christ of God. He alone knew all God's meaning for you. When visible in the flesh, he was the God-man, a man for all men, loving God and loving men. In him all find relationship. He is of the great wholeness of life, the sap, the very tree and the vine. He was truly Son of God and Son of Man. The great unity of God and man is revealed in the cross. End of lesson.